Today I want to do a video which is all about skin, particularly the no makeup and then how to recreate cystic acne. It's the kind of makeup that you see used a lot in films or TVs, especially in transformation or makeover scenes, so I'm going to be showing you how to recreate these two extremes and how to have both of them look very, very natural. So the first thing we're going to start off with is the no makeup. I'm going to be starting off with a moisturizer, and this is going to give me a good base to help the foundation look even lighter. I'm also going to bring it down onto my neck just because otherwise it's too easy to forget about your neck, and you do need to moisturize that area as well. But before I go ahead and apply the foundation, I'm going to let the moisturizer sit for a bit and I'm going to move on to my brows. The first thing you need to figure out is what shape they naturally take. So you want to brush through them with a spoolie, and this does help because sometimes when they're not brushed it's very easy to think that they grow in one direction, but they don't. So brush through them just so you see where the sparse areas are, where you want to fill them in, and then fill those in and then go through them with a spoolie so that it's not obvious that they've been filled in. As for the foundation, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be mixing it. It's going to be 50% foundation and 50% moisturizer, and then I'm going to brush through it with a brush and then go over it with my fingers. This is going to give you the lightest coverage. It should cover up anything that you want to have covered up, but it's also going to reflect the light better. It's going to look better on camera, but it's not going to look obvious and heavy. Now around the eye, I am going to be building it up a little bit with my fingers. It's just one of those preferences I have, but if you prefer using a brush, go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to go in with concealer, just a tiny bit where I think I need it, so a little bit in the inner corner, especially where I tend to get circles right underneath the brow. I don't know why I said circles like that, but anyway, I meant dark circles. I'm going to blend that out with my fingers, and then we're going to move on to a blush. Now if you want to keep it to no makeup, try and go for a colour which is as close to the natural shade that you have in your cheeks, or only very slightly darker than your own skin tone. Focus this on the apples of the cheeks and then a little bit along the jawline and then also the cheekbones if you want to, but the key point here is blending. If it's not blended, it's not going to look very natural. As for the eyelashes, if you want to make them look thicker but not like they're lined, take something which is not a pure black, take something which is more of a charcoal colour or an off black, and you want to press this right in between the roots of the lashes. The closer you get it to the lashes and the more it's blended out on the edges, the more natural it's going to look. If you get it coming up a little bit too much on the edge of the eye, just blend through it either with your fingers or a brush. And then we're going to be curling the lashes. I like to curl the lashes in 3 chunks. First curl at the roots, then the middle, and then the end. That way you get a gradual curve instead of it just suddenly sticking straight up, which can look a little bit odd. So once I've curled the lashes, I'm also going to curl them a little bit in the inner corner. This always helps open up the eye a little bit more. And for me especially, I tend to look very, very tired normally if the centre lashes, my inner corner, aren't curled, so this is one of the reasons I like to do that. Now to get the lightest coating of mascara possible while still getting that lift and not having it too obvious that you're wearing mascara, the easiest way to do this is to just remove all the excess from the brush first, then go through it with the mascara. Then you can take a brush guard, you can use anything, you can use a piece of paper instead of a proper brush guard for this, and then go through it with a spoolie to get rid of all the clumps. That way you still get that lift that mascara gives you, but it doesn't look obvious either. Then finally for the lips, I'm going to be using a lip tint. One thing you need to bear in mind for lip tints is they do have a tendency to dry out the lips. So before you apply it, try and apply a little bit of lip balm, leave it there for a few minutes. Ideally do this before you even apply any of the other makeup so that it has time to sink in, and then apply the lip tint and blend it out with your fingers. After that, I'm just going to finish off with a tiny bit of translucent makeup, and this is only going to be focused on the T-zone. So along the forehead, down the bridge of the nose, and then the cheeks, just so that it doesn't get too shiny. Now for the second look, I want to show you how to recreate realistic acne, dandruff, tired eyes and dry lips. These are all the kind of things that you can use on your own for creating a character makeup, but today I'll be showing you all of them at once. Now let's start off with the hair. For hair oil and dandruff, there are 2 different routes you can go down. If you want to make the hair look very oily and shiny, then use a hair oil around the roots. But if you want the hair to look a little dull and oily without that shine, then use a conditioner. Better yet, once you wash this out, your hair should feel really, really good. But for dandruff, there's a lot of little different ways to recreate this. Some films in the past have used things like soap shavings, potato shavings. I like oats, just because crushed oats are the best, because then you get that variety of the smaller dusty dandruff and then also the larger flakes. Now for the brows, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be trying to make them look a little bit more overgrown, but without it being completely overboard. For me, one of the areas that I tend to get the hair growing the fastest is in the centre, so that's what I'm going to accentuate. But some people, their eyebrows will grow a little bit more on the outer corner, maybe on the arch, maybe on the curve of the brow. These are the kind of things that you'll have to take into account once you're working on the actor. And what I like to do is to just draw it with a small nail art brush. That way you get those very fine hair-like lines and it's going to look the most natural. Now for the tired eyes, there are different things that we can do for this as well. Different people are going to have different things which make them look more tired. Some people will have more dark circles, some people will have more bags under their eyes. For me, it tends to be redness and dark circles. So I'm going to focus on the inner corner, adding some grey, and that's one of the best colours to use for dark circles. Not necessarily blue. Blue can veer a little bit too much on the side of making you look like you've been punched or you've got a bruise there. So I prefer to use grey and then a red around the eye, on the inner corner of the eye and on the outer corner as well. I'm going to be using a mixture of a brush and my fingers to blend it out. And personally, for cream products, I prefer using my fingers just because the warmth tends to blend them out a little bit better. Now around the nose, I want to make it look like I have a little bit of a cold and also a little bit irritated as well. So we're going to be putting this around the edge of the nostrils and then also just underneath your nose. Again, I'll be doing a mixture of blending with my fingers and a brush. Now for anything like rosacea and acne, this is something which needs to be built up slowly. It's not just one colour slapped on the face, it's a layer of multiple colours and textures which you need to build up slowly. You're going to need a mixture of reds, pinks. Start off with a stippling sponge, and then the easiest way to start off is get a colour which is as close to your natural lip colour as possible. Apply that colour where you think you need it, and then over that I'm going to be using a different stippling sponge. This one's smaller, it's got much finer details, and it's going to be very good for making it look like you've got a lot of broken capillaries on the surface. So I'm going to be layering over that pink, this time with a red. But don't forget to bring this down to the ears, to the neck as well, because it's going to look a little bit strange if you have all these colours and textures going on your face, and then your ears and your neck don't have them. It's going to make it look fake, and that's obviously not what we're going for. So you need to bring that down a little bit. It doesn't have to be as heavy as on the face, but you do need to try and bring it out onto the ears and the neck. And once you've worked with that stippling sponge, this is where we're going to go back to the brush. One thing you're going to notice if you've ever suffered from acne yourself, or if you have had a friend or seen someone who suffers from acne, is that you're going to tend to get clusters. These clusters aren't symmetrical, so don't do a dot on one side of the face and then recreate that on the other side. That's not how acne tends to work. It doesn't tend to be symmetrical. You will have clusters and these very organic patterns, but you will not have perfect symmetry. So try and follow the patterns that you've already laid down with the red and the pink previously. You're going to be putting down those little dots and then blending them out with your finger. Over that, that's where we're going to be creating the texture. Now I've got pre-mixed silicone. If you don't have this, it's okay, you don't have to use this. You can also use latex, you can even use eyelash glue or scar wax. Scar wax is a little bit more time consuming, but if that's all you have to hand, you can definitely use it. I've already applied the area where I want the more heavy acne, and then for the lips, to create dry lips, the easiest way to do this is to smile, apply a very, very thin layer of latex, go over it with powder, and then purse your lips when you're applying the powder, and that way you're going to get the lips to crinkle up and look much drier than they actually are. Finally, to finish off, you want to add more pink onto that acne that we've already applied. I've waited for it to dry, and I'm going to be using that same pink that I used around the eyes, just so you get that gradient. You're going to get that lighter, closer to the yellowy white colour in the centre of the zit, but then you're going to get more of that irritated redness around the edges. And that's it. You're done.